Hey everyone, welcome to video 8 of the Student Portfolio Playlist and Project. In this section, we're going to style the projects page. So where we last left off, we set up the structure for the projects page and we utilized something new, Font Awesome icon. So hopefully you found that pretty cool. We do have a little housekeeping to do on the HTML section first before we get to the styling. So let's get right to it. In your Cloud9 IDE or any IDE you're using, let's pull down our file structure for our project. And the files we want in our editor, let's bring up projects.html and we want styles.css. And our focus is going to be on projects.html, so I am going to now slide over the editor so I could have a little more room here. And a little omission from the last section, if you remember, we set up a container for project icons. So let's actually go through this. Our focus was on the project card. Notice that opens on 44, closes on 59. I want to bring that up just a little bit. And then within project's card, we had title, instructions, image, project description, the course, and then finally the icons. And it's in that icon container that I want to focus. Do me a favor and move your cursor to the end of the source code div right here, and we want to hit enter. We need a p tag here, and I've omitted that originally. And let's see, we want paragraph snippet, and we want to identify this section as source code. We want to copy that same item here, come on down to the end of the GitHub repo class and follow suit, do the same thing, but we're going to take out source code and we're going to put in GitHub repo. So that will appear underneath the icons. And now the only other thing we have to do, if you remember, we copied the file icon over, but what we didn't do was bring in the actual content. So I need you to go back to your GitHub repository for this project. And let me see if I can find that. Here we go. And scroll down to additional project resources, and we want to access the third item down. Remember, when you're accessing this from GitHub, right click and open the link in new tab. The other item we want to access, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here, I'm going to go to the finished product, and we want the GitHub repository for the project that we are creating this card for. So we're going to take you all the way back, at least for my classroom students, to the first project we did for the year. First walkthrough was an image gallery of Hawaii. All right, so this is the repo we want. And let's see. And this is the file that we want open. And this is a GitHub pages from Baker Frank called CodePrint. So this is a really cool tool. And what we want to do here is we want to, well, what you could see here is the work inside of this box prints out with numbering in a PDF format, and it's really a nice presentation of source code. So what we need to do is what we need to do, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I need to go back to the project again, and let me actually open up the example that we have here. So we want to start with the word file and index, so we're going to delete everything inside of the box. Put the word file, colon, and index.html kind of as a header. And let me see if that, yep. Okay, and then we want to go over to your image gallery, open up index.html, and copy everything inside of that file. And you could do this from your GitHub repo because remember, your code is stored there. And hit Control Paste, come on back to the Baker Frank box, and our cursor's 2 down, and now we paste that. And notice now you've got down below an extension of what will appear. So we have the file titled index.html and then all the code here. So after that, we want to move our cursor to the end, hit enter twice or 3 times, and we want to repeat the process. File, and style.css. And we want to go back to our GitHub repository and repeat that same process. So I'm going to click to the front page of that, come on down to styles.css, open that file up, and copy everything from top all the way down. And bring it back into our code print tool. Paste that, and notice now, I believe that is it, and we have a look of what that will appear like on your PDF, and everything is nice and numbered for us. So at this point now we want to come over and okay, one final thing is let's move the cursor right next to the word file index.html inside of the box for code print. Hit enter twice, and we want to have a heading here. We want to put project title, image gallery, and let's see, I think there was other text. Yes, so we'll have CSF Q1. So we'll put CSF Q1 project 1 walkthrough. So we have that title up on top. So actually I jumped the gun here. Let me delete those 2 lines. And now notice it gives us a nice title at the top. If we go to print, what you want to do here is print to a PDF. So if we save this to your Chromebook, after the preview loads, okay, and now we're going to change the name here. So to the left of the .pdf, we could type in image gallery code and hit save. Okay. All right, once that is done, you want to access that folder, or excuse me, that file from your file structure and drag it as if it were, well, it is an asset, as if it were an image. So we want that PDF in with the other 2 images. So do the same thing, pull up your file structure, drag it over the assets folder and drop. And now we want to hover over that, copy file path, and where this is going to go is right inside of the href. This is our link, Control V, and we want, remember to change the reference to the project folder. So we want to delete that. We want the browser to be instructed to open up the assets folder and then open up the PDF file that we just created. So that is CodePrint. So a nice tool that allows us to add structured title, project title, and other text first, and then we could copy in all of our code, and it just creates a nice PDF format for us. Okay, so I'm going to close out of some of that, and let's see where we have left off. I want to get a little more real estate here and save this. Let's do a preview really quick. I'm going to close out of the pane down below so the preview goes to the right. And here we go again. There is our source code. There is our links. And finally, the reference to source code in GitHub repository. So that is everything for the card. Now, does not look good at all. We need to do some styling for this. So we're going to bring over the styles in style.css. We are not going to create a new file for this. So in style.css, if you would open that up, remember we had HTML body and then all of the hero work done. So let's move to the end of button hover before the media query and hit enter twice, maybe even 2 or 3 times. Okay, and okay, we want to begin with styling the project's header section. So I'm going to just quickly go back to the projects.html here. I'll give you a chance to type that in a minute, but let's see what we're actually referring to. The project's header is up top here, and it is going to be our 2 tags, h2 and h4, as an intro. So back to styles.css, and we are applying a margin. Top and bottom is 1.5 rem, left and right is 3. We're aligning information to the center, a little padding, and letter spacing is 4 pixels. So we're just spreading out the letters within the title. All right, and give you a second to type all that in. And then I'm going to move my cursor to the end of that. So make sure that you have the opening curly brackets, closing curly brackets. This is for project's header class, hence the dot in front. And then 4 properties with their property colon value and semicolon. So move your cursor to the end of that curly bracket, hit enter twice, and our next section is project card. So project card, again, just back to the HTML section, is going to be everything that we just worked on. And that'll have the title, the image, the instructions, and description, and so on. So we want a background color to be different. We want this to be white. And we want the color to actually be, so we're flipping the script here, we want the color to be the background color of the whole project. So that dark purple. Background color is going to be white. Adding a top and bottom margin of 4, left and right of 3. Padding, top and bottom of 0.5 rem, and padding in left and right of 2. Remember, rem here is 16 pixels, unless adjusted by the user. We're aligning everything in the center, and we're adding a border around the card or the container itself, and a border radius of 1 rem, add a slight curvature and a slight box shadow. Okay, let's take a quick preview of that. So here is where we left off with the styles section. I'm going to save that, come on over to our projects and our preview. Remember, we are approaching mobile first here too. So take a look now. Our header actually is pretty close to set up. We've got our H2 and our H4, that's great. We've got the beginnings of the card and the curvature that we wanted with a white background and then the dark purple lettering. So that looks good. The image is completely overflowing, so we haven't addressed that yet. Here is our P tag for our description, our course. So we're kind of well on our way with just a little bit. So let's focus now on that image. And we are going to target the image so that we use the tricks we've been using for responsive, and that means any image in the project card class, we want the width not to overflow. We want it to be contained 100% in the container that it is within. So we want the image to only be as wide as the project card itself. We want height to be auto and border radius of 3, a little curvature, and margin top and bottom of 1, 0 to the left and right. So let's see how that impacted our preview here. And notice now the image is now contained 100% inside of our card with a little bit of margin and the border radius, the curvature. So far so good here. We want to target the card and the paragraph, the H2 and the paragraphs. We want to change sizing there just a little bit. So let's get the project card. We want to go the H2 within the project card. We want margins of 1/2 rem for top, 1 for left, bottom 1.5, and 1. Font weight we want to pull in 600. Remember that was from fonts.google.com. The paragraph tag we want to keep at 1 rem, and we want the weight of 400. So let's take a quick peek and see if that changed. Remember, we're looking at the H2 and the paragraph tags here. And we had a little bit of change here for the better. Okay. We want to look at the project icons now. The icons from Font Awesome. And remember, the entire container, we have these two in a container. They're top and bottom now because the default, that's the flow, the default flow, and it would be the default of flex. But the minute we say display flex, excuse me, I said that wrong. The minute we display flex, the default is row, and that's the intention here. So we will have these side by side, spaced evenly with a font size a little bit larger and a margin on the top. Project icons, the paragraph tags, that's your source code and GitHub repository. We're just adding a little margin and decreasing the font size there. So let's take a look and see how that looks. Notice we now are left to right, just like we wanted. Okay. And as you can see, we want to change the styling of the classes for each of these items. So that will target the following. Our GitHub icon, we want to be a little larger, and we want the same size to impact the file icon. Now, we did not have the class on that, so let's just take a quick look back on projects. We are actually targeting the class from Font Awesome itself. So let's see. Here is one right here. We're accessing that class section, which means anything that comes over in that Font Awesome, we're going to be overwriting here. So let's double check that. And now we have the icons a little bigger. Okay. So taking a look at the preview, it looks like we have one error to kind of troubleshoot here, and we want the final piece to have the source code and GitHub repo paragraph tags underneath each of the icons. So that looks to me more like structure than anything. So I'm going to head back to our projects.html, and remember, we added that in at the beginning here. And take a look. Source code opens on 51 and closes on 53, and we put the p tag outside of that container. We want that inside. So let me correct that right now. I'm going to hit Control X. I'm going to move my cursor inside of the source code container to the very end of the A tag for the icon, and paste my paragraph tag there. All right. I want to do the same thing for the GitHub repo paragraph tag. So Control X, move my cursor to the end of the icon anchor tag, hit enter, paste that there, and I think that should fix our issue. So let's hit save. And there we go. So it looks like right now we have styled our header. We've got my projects I've completed in my CS courses, and now the beginning of our card. So we have our title, instructions to click the link below, source code, GitHub repo, the title of the class, and a description. Now, what happens though when I go full screen? When I go full screen, everything literally takes up 100%. So we need to fix that, and that will be in, as you probably guessed it, inside of our media query. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to just keep a little bit of space, maybe 1, 2, 3. And remember here with the media query, this is a separate section of code that says only when we reach a minimum width of 800 or more do we apply these styles. Now that means keep everything in mobile first, and when we get to a bigger screen, expand. So notice where I have my cursor right now. I've got it right next to the closing curly bracket of the media query, and there's the opening. So we want to make sure that our adjustments stay within those brackets. So I'm going to move my cursor right to the last piece of button here, hit enter twice, remaining inside of the media query. And as you could probably guess, we want to adjust this class here, project gallery. And we want that project gallery to be able to display things in a bigger screen horizontally and not vertically. So yes, you guessed it, Flexbox will be employed here. So there's our dot project gallery. When we get to a bigger screen, we want flex to be employed, and we want flex direction to be row. Center everything, and it will wrap the cards. And this is very similar to what we did with our image gallery. The only thing we want to make sure now is when we go back to our project card itself, here's our opening card and there's our closing. We want to make sure that, and let's do this first. Let's actually put I'm going to grab that comment and make sure that I am lining this up. Div class project card, and this will be close project card 1. And we want to keep track of this because we're going to copy this. So from the div on line 44 all the way down to 60 is our project card. That's all the HTML structure. And let's see. And when we go to a bigger screen, we want them to not be 100% of the container. We want to change this so that the project card, whoops, let me get that final piece of code here. We want that project card not to be 100% of the width. We want it to be max width of 25. So let's refresh that. Come on over to our bigger screen, refresh, and notice now the card is much smaller. Okay, we want one final piece here, and it's going to be redundant. This is, again, the walkthrough. You will populate this, my students will, in your freelance with the actual project work. We just got you started on the first. But what we want to do here, now that we've got the styling for both mobile and larger screen, we want to actually add 2 more project cards in here. So let me grab all that here. So from 44 on down to 60, project card 1, I'm going to hit enter twice, paste, enter twice, paste, and I want to change project card 2 and project card 3. So now that we have that saved, let's refresh and see if we have 3 cards on our mobile. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Bigger screen. Now they are going across and they're wrapping. Okay, so they're not wrapping 3 across, just 2 across. So let's see if we could adjust that. We're going to go back to style and let's try 20%. And there's our width of 20%, 3 across. I think 3 across is a good fit. And as you get to your 4th and 5th, flex wrap will just put them down below. So at this point, we have successfully styled the mobile version of the project HTML page and the desktop version. Congratulations. In the next section, we are going to be finishing up or putting in the footer and tidying up some of the last items for the project. So we will see you then, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.